Administrative Attorney Yonit Wilburn. After the waiver from the applicant, I went and spoke with the chair. I also spoke with Mr. Carson, who is willing to withdraw his PLTI, which then creates zero issues with regards to Chairman Hartung coming back in and his recusal. Chairman Hartung, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you so much, Ms. Wilburn. Let me get myself organized. Thank you.
Chairman Hartung, if I may interrupt, can we get the confirmation from Mr. Carson that he's withdrawing his recusal, withdrawing his PLTI or motion?
Okay, I'll allow them to speak first.
Good afternoon, Brent Carson. As everybody is well aware, I filed a petition for reconsideration of the denial of our past two PLTIs. This issue is something that I definitely didn't want, but I really couldn't hear a lot. But what I want to clarify is that the commissioner and he agreed that says there was nothing substantive, no opinions, no conclusions, no arguments were made. But under the auspice of an impropriety, I did speak with applicant's counsel, and I explained to her pretty much the basis of the telephone call as it was procedurally in nature because of the proposed number of people that were supposed to go. We wanted to know basically if we were going to get the opportunity to speak when the item it was called itself, or whether we had to come up at the very beginning during public comments. And so I think that was explained to him that the conversation was he was going to let everybody get their chance to speak. So I agree that sorry about that, but I've talked to my clients, and what I want to do now is just to avoid anything. We don't want to have anything else, any issues regarding this, because I believe that this should be voted upon by the full authority. We're willing to dismiss our petition for reconsideration. I will allow probably will have my clients and myself talk in the general, and as a general opinion of the public. That's it.
Okay. So with Chairman Hartung coming back in, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to Garrett to go ahead and give staff report, please. That way he can get caught up. Thank you.
You're good. Sorry, I was packing up for lunch. I apologize for that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry. It's right here. Hold on.
It's the distance. It's the distance to the mic.
The
closer you get, can you hear it?
Is it that one? And if I start talking, does it go away? Oh, phone maybe. All right. Here it is. Garrett Hammock, financial analyst. We're going to go through the staff summary again. Docket 24-09290. Sorry about that. 26. Paradise Transportation Company, LLC, DBA Vegas Loop. Application summary on September 23rd, 2024, Paradise Transportation Company, LLC, filed an application requesting airport transfer and special service authorities within Clark County, Nevada, and to operate a fleet size of 102 vehicles. Paradise Transportation is a wholly owned subsidiary of Vegas Loop Operating Company, LLC, and Vegas Loop is a wholly owned subsidiary of The Boring Company, a privately held company owned by billionaire Elon Musk, the majority owner. Staff is in support of this application. Summary of the procedures performed. There were 2 PLTIs which were filed on December 5th, 2024. Both were denied on January 30th of 2025. Background investigations was performed. Commissioner R. David Gruber, serving in his capacity as hearing officer in this matter, took judicial notice of Elon Musk as owner of the Boring Company, a Delaware corporation and parent company of the Vegas Loop. The sole member, Vegas Loop Operating Company LLC, the sole member of Paradise Transportation Company LLC. We found their market to be sufficient. We spoke to Mr. Ed Finger, Chief Strategy Officer of the LVCVA. He stated he was in support of their application. Staff is relying on Mr. Finger's testimony as verified market. They met all financial requirements on the pro forma balance sheet and the pro forma income statement. There will be a cash infusion required, and staff has verified that funds are available for the cash infusion. And that is the report I have.
Thank you. And I'll ask Commissioner or Chair Hartung if he has any questions related to the application.
Yeah, you can call me Commissioner. It's okay. And for the purposes of this, I'm going to refer to you. I'm going to refer to you as Mr. Chairman because that's technically how we should deal with this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. So tell me just real quickly, staff has reviewed this application. And my initial view of this was airport transfer. So explain to me how they're going to utilize portions of these transports that are away, and I'm going to describe it this way, away from the tunnels. Because if it just goes from the airport to a tunnel to, let's say, the convention center, and I'll just use that as the example. That's one component, but if it goes from that place, let's just say, again, it's the convention center, to a place where there's a proposed station, how does that work into this? Will that be considered part of this transfer? And how will the tariffs look?
That is something I don't know if I'm qualified to speak to because Liz carried most of this application and I'm filling in at this point. So I would have to speak to Liz a little bit more on that.
Can you, Ms. Wilburn, can you answer those questions or?
Radhika,
I'm sorry to be problematic. I apologize, but there's
is
just
that something the applicant can answer?
connect.
Can that question be directed to the applicant?
Yeah, the applicant is fine. Yeah. Go ahead and identify. Sorry.
Great. I'm Tyler Fairbanks with Paradise Transportation Company. So just to address Chair Hartung's question, the question was well, I think I'll set it up this way. Every trip as part of Paradise Transportation Company must include the tunnel transportation system. So if there's a station that is not along the Paradise or that's not along the loop transportation system, the vehicle must exit the tunnel system and travel on the surface to that station. So we'll take another example beyond just the airport example that you brought up. One would be, say, Caesar's Palace. A vehicle would be able to exit the LVCC loop at, say, the West Station, which is along Convention Center Drive. They could travel from the West Station to Caesar's Palace on the surface. So in the same way, in the airport example that you mentioned, the vehicles leave the tunnel transportation system to get to the airport or leave the airport and enter the tunnel transportation system. The same holds with other stations along the proposed Vegas loop.
So let's ask maybe even a harder question.
Yes, sir.
timing of the tunnels to these additional stations? Do we know? I mean, when we came out and visited, I'm not going to lie, I was thoroughly impressed with the technology of being able to bore so rapidly and quickly. But I don't see that happening right now. So what's the timing of all of this stuff?
Yeah, so maybe it's helpful to talk about the current construction that is undergoing. So we have 2 tunnels being constructed from 4744 Paradise up to actually the West Gate, tying into the existing Vegas Loop system. The goal is to have those tunnels open towards the end of this year or early next year. And then beyond that, we want to build the bulk of the system, which is a total of 68 miles of tunnel and 104 stations over the next several years. So this is like a several years project rather than a many years project.
So commissioners, and this is just a suggestion. If we decide that we're going to move forward with this, and I'm going to play devil's advocate on both sides, maybe we put a condition of timing on this. We say, we'll give you this approval, but if you don't have these tunnels built within X amount of time, and whatever that time is that the commission can decide, because otherwise this becomes just exactly like every other carrier on the street, because it's not utilizing tunnels ultimately to complete those trips, the ultimate trip. And so it's a bit of a concern for me. But that said, we have a statutory obligation, and I apologize, I did not bring my notes, so I had to kind of pull a bunch of stuff offline. But we have to treat, commissioners, this applicant the same as we would treat every other applicant, regardless of whom the representatives are. We have to look at them as exactly at the same level. Do they meet the qualifications and the requirements in 706-391? That's, from my perspective, that's what we have to look at. Do they meet those requirements? But I also think that we have a little bit of deference to say, we could put some timing on this, and I'll leave that to legal counsel to say, if this doesn't occur within 5 years, maybe they need to come back and revisit this. So I'm kind of running through some of this stuff in my mind, but those are my questions for now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much. Oh, the per capita. Thank you. Yeah. Explain the per capita to me, Mr. Fairfield.
Yeah, each trip is per capita, meaning each individual passenger will pay a fare.
I understand that, but is it based on just a single trip? So, in other words, let me use this. I need to get home on Friday night. If I come from the airport and you use the tunnel, can you take me to Reno for $15?
No. So the only stations that we're able to provide service to are the stations that were listed on the application, the 104 stations. One thing that I do want to make sure is abundantly clear is that each trip must go through the tunnel system. We cannot just take passengers from one surface location to another surface location without touching the tunnel system.
That's good for that clarification. But if I'm a single rider, it's only going to cost me a certain amount. But if there's 2 riders in the vehicle or 4 riders in the vehicle, each rider is going to pay that same per capita price. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And that per capita pricing is specific to the surface portion of the trip. Once you enter the loop system, there will be additional fares for the portion of the trip that's handled in the tunnel system.
Okay. You're gonna think that I'm being humorous, but I'm not. What if I have a child with me?
It's a per capita trip, so the child would be paying as well.
So a child counts as a head. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, there's not like look, it's just an infant, you know, they're going to sit in my lap. I'm going to, well, you know what I mean.
No, I don't.
I'm being admonished because I haven't had a child in a bunch of years, but I have a child with me and let's just say they're an infant. I'm still going to pay that per capita price for that person being in the vehicle, that human being.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I think I just had a question related to how do you intend to block out rides that don't touch the tunnel? What does that look like? Me as a consumer, if I want to request a ride, but there's no tunnel access, the company determines a geographic area or?
The company, we will be specific about the stations that you are able to travel to. And so depending on where you pick up a ride, which those set of stations are defined, we will make sure that the list of stations that you can go to from your origin station includes the tunnels. So for example, you would not be able to travel, you wouldn't be able to select a ride at Caesar's Palace to go to Bellagio because there's no tunnel in between along that path at this point. Obviously there will be, but at this point that tunnel doesn't exist. But so you would be able to request this using the Caesar's Palace one again, you'd be able to request from Caesar's Palace to Virgin Hotel, which is along the Paradise alignment, because you would go through the tunnel system. So we'll be specific about the stations that you can go to from each origin station.
Can I also just add that there's also the employee side of it. So all of the drivers in our vehicles are employees of our company. And so they know where they are not allowed to drive to. There's rigorous training, background checks, refresher safety training on a near continual basis. So it's not like you could just get in and it's some random driver and you say, oh, go over there. I mean, these are employees of our company that are trained on the routes. Apologies, I'm Ashley Steinberg for the record with Paradise Transportation Company.
Thank you, Ashley. And as a consumer, how would I be notified that that ride wasn't acceptable to me? Would it just be geo-fenced out and I wouldn't be able to access it?
It would be through our ticketing system. Yeah, you would not have the option to go to that station that would not include a tunnel from your origin.
Thank you. I'm going to defer to our attorney. Ms. Wilburn, where are we at?
I do think you needed Wilburn, administrative attorney. I do think as part of this application, we still have Ms. Maxon Rushton's renewed PLTI and protest still on the table. So I do think before we move forward, that needs to be addressed as well.
Chairman, this is Radhika Kunal for the record. Given that there were concerns of noticing, can we get noticing waivers from the parties before if the chair decides to proceed with the PLTI/protest, get a point of clarification on if it's a protest or PLTI. While I believe it is a subservient matter, we don't need specific noticing requirements. They are covered under the application notice. However, given that it was brought to the commission's attention, if the chair would like to take that waiver before proceeding, that would be okay.
Ms. Cannell, we're getting a waiver from?
Miss, everyone else, I guess, the interested parties for noticing. While we believe, I guess, under the OML law, it is sufficient, clear and sufficient, given the fact that 150 notices for the application approval, which includes all topics, including protests that can be brought, oral protests that can be brought at the hearing. However, that was made a big deal by Mr. Hardy here. So I just to keep the record clear, if the chair wishes to, this may be appropriate time to do so.
Because I had that very question, Ms. Cannell, because the way it's noticed in the way I read this, right, I read 153, it doesn't appear to contemplate the protests.
Chairman Hartung, a protest can be made orally when an application comes up. It doesn't need to be noticed. So
Can we act on that because we didn't tell the public that we were going to act on a protest? It's just a procedural question. I'm not arguing. I'm just trying to understand procedurally. If I make a protest, somebody who's casually out there who might want to understand the protest doesn't know that I'm making the protest, and the commission is acting on something that does not appear on the agenda. That's my only question.
The answer is yes, because it falls within the purview of the application
Okay.
and all things involved. And the general public were provided clear and complete notice of the application process per se, which includes all the deliberation that goes into approving this application, and protest falls right under that. It's also a consideration made to approve in the process of approving the application.
This is, and forgive my ignorance, this demonstrates how inoften this kind of thing happens, where you don't have these things appearing, sort of last minute where you can actually act upon them. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Administrative Attorney Yonit Wilburn, just for clarification, the whole application itself was put on the agenda, and as part of the backup materials, all of the documentation was there for the public to read if they did want to read it. So it was there for their perusal. It has not been added in later. It was seated in the application in the virtual binder. And I understand the agenda itself is what gives notice. However, all those documents were there for the public to read.
No, I just wanted to understand the spirit of what was in front of us. And again, for the casual person to read that and say, okay, well, this is what we're dealing with, when indeed it's much broader than that. But thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Hardy, go ahead.
Yeah, since it was my kind of argument that brought that to light, a protest can happen at any point in time.
Mr. Hardy,
Issue is,
can you identify yourself for the record first?
yeah, Brian Hardy with the law firm of Marquis Arbach. Through the chair, I appreciate it. Again, that was a part of the argument relative to making sure that we had all participation. And that was really what my argument I was hoping was going to be limited to. Protests can happen at any point in time. Anybody can stand up here and make a protest. It's the intervention that would have to be ruled on, and that would have been the decision. So I just want to make it clear that I wasn't talking necessarily about protests, but I was making sure that we're talking about that. I do want to say as well, I appreciate the professionalism and staff and the commission in addressing this issue and making sure that all can be heard and a full decision can be made today. Thank you so much. I have nothing further on this item.
Commissioners, Administrative Attorney Yonit Wilburn, at this point, I do believe the commission should make a decision whether they're listening to Ms. Rushton's motion as a renewed PLTI or as a protest. It was styled as both when it was filed.
I'd like to make a decision related to Ms. Rushton's PLTI or protests. I think that's proper.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that Ms. Rushton's protest and renewed petition for leave to intervene be treated as a protest for purposes of today's proceedings. That's a motion, yes.
I'll second for purposes of discussion. Define for me purposes, so that's not a denial of the protest, it's an acknowledgement that the protest exists and can move forward and continues to stay alive.
Mr. Chairman, it would be a a motion that Ms. Rushton's pleadings be treated as a protest relative to the application,
Just as a protest.
just as a protest, not as a PLTI. She was previously denied PLTI by the hearing officer in this particular case, and actually twice, my understanding from our staff attorney. And because she was already denied twice, for that reason, I think the proper way to treat this would be as a protest. That would be my motion, Mr. Chairman.
I seconded that motion. I understand completely.
I guess that'll move us to all those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Administrative Attorney Yoni Wilburn, and just for clarification, the ask that this go, first of all, PLTIs, everything else come under the NACs, not NRSs. So they are under regulations, not statutes. The file to hear this under NAC 706.3995 by the full authority, the renewed petition is a may. The authority may hear it again. So what I'm hearing this is that the authority decided to not hear the PLTI again, but they are allowing this to be treated as a protest in order for Ms. Rushton to address all of her issues. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what I got out of it as well. Yeah, I think it's appropriate to break for lunch now. It's now 12:12. We'll take 1 hour and we'll come back and
Make it an even number.
okay, yeah. Yeah, 1:30 is fine. 1:30 is fine, and we'll come back and turn with docket number 153.
It's 12:15 and they want to start back at 1:30.
And we're in recess. Thank you.